never imagined my life would end this way, lying on a cold, impersonal hospital bed, tubes and wires attached to my frail body, monitors beeping, the steady rhythm of life hanging by a thread. I had always felt so alive, so vibrant in my identity as a trans activist, constantly pushing boundaries, demanding respect and recognition for who I truly was. The clothes I wore, the makeup, the way I carried myself, it was all a declaration, a shield against a world that often tried to erase me. But as the seconds slipped away and my heart faltered, I realized none of that mattered anymore. Pain, sharp and unforgiving, coursed through my chest. The voices around me, doctors, nurses, faded into a muffled hum, distant and unreal. Darkness enveloped me, yet it was not the void I feared. Instead, I found myself drawn toward a luminous light, a place of peace that transcended anything I'd ever known. The sterile walls and harsh lights of the hospital were gone. Instead, there was warmth, a profound, unconditional love that seeped into every corner of my being. Then he appeared, not as a distant deity on a throne, but as a presence so alive, so tender, that tears filled my eyes. His gaze penetrated deep within, as if he saw every struggle, every wound, every triumph and failure. And with that gaze came a question not of judgment, but of profound curiosity and love. Why are you wearing that? The question unsettled me. Was he referring to my clothing, my identity, my pride? Or was it something deeper, the masks I wore to protect myself, the identities I clung to for survival, the labels that both defined and confined me? It was an invitation to look inward, beyond the surface, to the core of who I really was. In that moment, surrounded by light and love, I felt the walls I had built around myself begin to crumble. I was vulnerable but safe, exposed yet embraced. The journey I was about to begin was not just about understanding who I was in life, but who I was in eternity. The question, "Why are you wearing that?" echoed in the vastness of the light surrounding me, resonating through every fiber of my being. It wasn't a rebuke or condemnation, it was an invitation to a deeper self-examination. I realized that it wasn't just about the physical clothes or the outward expression of my identity, but about the layers of meaning I had wrapped myself in throughout my life. In the world I had left behind, my identity was fiercely fought for. Every outfit, every pronoun, every public statement was an assertion of my truth, a truth that had been denied, marginalized, or misunderstood. I had worn my identity like armor, and sometimes like a weapon, challenging those who refused to see me as I was. But in this realm of radiant love and peace, I was invited to see beyond those external expressions. The presence before me revealed that true identity is not defined by garments or labels, but by the essence of the soul, the eternal self created in the image of divine love. I felt a stirring inside me, a yearning to shed the burdens of external validation and to find the freedom that comes from embracing the core of who I was. It was a freedom that transcended earthly struggles, societal expectations, and even my own fears and doubts. This was not a call to deny or reject my experiences, but to understand that the deepest truth of my identity was anchored in something far greater, a love that accepts me wholly, unconditionally, and eternally. I saw reflections of my journey, the pain of rejection, the joy of acceptance, the battles fought within myself and with the world. And through it all, the presence showed me that I was loved beyond measure, not for what I wore or how I identified, but for the soul I was created to be. This revelation was both comforting and challenging. Comforting because it offered a peace I had long sought, challenging because it asked me to rethink everything I believed about identity and belonging. I realized that the question was not just for me, but for everyone. Beyond the clothes we wear, the labels we claim, who are we truly? And can we find the courage to embrace that deeper self in a world that so often defines us by surface appearances? The presence before me radiated an undeniable peace, but the path toward embracing this deeper truth was fraught with turmoil, as the question, "Why are you wearing that?" lingered in my soul. I found myself wrestling with the complex tapestry of emotions that had defined my life: pride, anger, hope, fear, and pain. I admitted to the presence the countless battles I had fought fighting for acceptance in a world quick to judge, struggling against prejudice and misunderstanding. I shared the anger I carried for the wounds inflicted by those who refused to see me as I was, and the loneliness of fighting for a voice in the crowd. But in response, I was met not with condemnation, but with an overwhelming grace. This grace was unlike anything I had experienced before, a love so pure and powerful that it reached into the deepest recesses of my heart, offering healing where I had only known hurt. The presence invited me to surrender my anger and fear, not by erasing my experiences, but by allowing love to transform them. I was shown that true strength lies not in resistance or defiance alone, but in the willingness to forgive and be forgiven. I wrestled with this concept. Forgiveness felt like a mountain too steep, especially when so much pain had been endured in the name of identity and survival. Yet, I felt a stirring within, a longing to be freed from the chains of bitterness, to embrace a peace that transcended understanding. The grace offered was a healing balm to my wounded soul, inviting me into a relationship that could restore and renew. It was an invitation to become whole, not by abandoning my story, but by weaving it into a larger narrative of redemption and hope. This encounter challenged every assumption I held about faith, identity, and love. It was not a denial of who I was, but an expansion of who I could become, a beloved child of the divine, crowned not by societal labels but by grace. Though the struggle was real and ongoing, I sensed a new beginning, a path toward reconciliation within myself and with the world around me. As the presence's radiant light enveloped me, I became aware of a new symbol, an exquisite crown, unlike any earthly ornament. It was not made of gold or jewels, but woven from threads of compassion, courage, sacrifice, and unconditional love. This crown was held gently in his hand, a powerful emblem of victory not over others, but over the deepest struggles within ourselves. The meaning of this crown unfolded slowly in my heart. It was a recognition, not of perfection, but of the courage to face life's challenges with an open heart. It honored those who endured rejection, pain, and misunderstanding, yet chose love over bitterness, grace over judgment. I understood that this crown was offered to all who dared to walk a path of transformation, who embraced vulnerability, forgiveness, and healing. It was a promise that every soul, regardless of past wounds or present struggles, could be honored and uplifted. In that moment, I felt the weight of the crown not as a burden, but as a sacred responsibility. It called me to live a life marked by compassion, authenticity, and the courage to bear witness to love that transcends all boundaries. This was not a crown reserved for the mighty or the perfect, but for the humble and the broken who are made whole by grace. It symbolized a new identity rooted not in labels or appearances, but in the eternal truth of being loved beyond measure. I was invited to accept this crown, to wear it as a symbol of a new life, one dedicated to embodying the compassion I had received and to offering it freely to a world in desperate need of healing. As I reached out to take the crown, a profound peace settled over me, and I knew that my journey was far from over. The crown was a guide, a light to follow, and a reminder that true identity is found in the heart's capacity to love and be loved. Though the light was warm and inviting, I was told it was not yet time to stay. The journey back to the physical world beckoned, and with it, a new Mishona calling to bring the transformative love and compassion I had experienced to others still caught in darkness and struggle. As I began to return, I felt the gentle but firm tug pulling me back into my fragile body, into the hospital room filled with white walls and mechanical sounds. The sterile environment was a stark contrast to the radiant realm I had just left, but inside me, a fire had been kindled, a passion to live differently, to speak openly, and to embody the grace that had touched me. Awakening was disorienting. The pain, the tubes, the tired faces around me, everything was real. Yet my soul carried a light that no earthly circumstance could extinguish. The question, "Why are you wearing that?" continued to echo, but now it served as a reminder, not of judgment, but of deeper truth of the soul's journey beyond appearances. I knew that my identity and my faith were no longer separate. They were intertwined in a new story of healing, hope, and authenticity. The crown I had been shown was not a distant promise. but a present reality to be lived each day. This mission was not easy. It meant facing skepticism, misunderstanding, and sometimes outright rejection from the very communities I loved and advocated for, and from faith circles unfamiliar with stories like mine. Yet, the love I had encountered gave me courage to persevere. I resolved to share my testimony not to convince or convert, but to invite open hearts to the possibility of grace, forgiveness, and wholeness beyond division. I would speak of the transformative power of love that accepts all identities, heals wounds, and crowns every soul with dignity. Every conversation, every moment of vulnerability became an act of witness. I became a bridge between worlds, often seen as oppositional, between pain and healing, between identity and faith. The mission was clear: to live as a reflection of the Crown's compassion and to offer hope to those still searching for their true self beyond the clothes they wear. Returning to daily life with the memory of that divine encounter was both a blessing and a challenge. The world I had left behind was still the same, filled with complexities, misunderstandings, and pressures to conform. But inside me, everything had changed. I was no longer just the trans activist who fought for acceptance. I was a bearer of a deeper truth, one that blended identity with faith, struggle with grace, and pain with healing. I found myself navigating new dynamics in relationships with friends, family, and followers. Some embraced my transformation, inspired by the hope and authenticity it brought. Others were confused or resistant, unsure how to reconcile the activist they knew with the person I was becoming. Social media, once a platform for assertiveness and rebellion, now became a space for vulnerability, testimony, and dialogue. Living this transformation meant embracing humility and courage. It meant acknowledging my imperfections and ongoing struggles, while also celebrating the profound peace that faith had given me. It meant holding space for others' journeys, even when they differed from mine. I began engaging with communities that sought to bridge faith and LGBTQ+ experiences, fostering conversations that were once taboo or fraught with tension. Through storytelling, prayer, and mutual respect, I witnessed healing happen not just within myself, but in others wrestling with identity and belief. This new way of living was not without hardship. I faced criticism from both secular and religious circles, experienced moments of loneliness, and wrestled with doubts. But the crown of compassion I carried was a reminder of the victory that comes through perseverance, love, and grace. Every day was a step forward on a path of authenticity, healing, and purpose. I was learning to live fully in the light I had seen beyond death, clothed not just in the fabric of this world, but in the eternal love that had crowned me. The journey of transformation is ongoing, a path filled with twists, setbacks, and breakthroughs. As I moved forward, I realized that embracing hope and healing was not a destination, but a daily choice. The memories of that near-death encounter, the question, "Why are you wearing that?" and the crown of compassion remained etched on my soul, guiding me through moments of darkness and doubt. I found strength in prayer, meditation, and quiet reflection moments where I could reconnect with the divine love that had first touched me. These practices grounded me, offering a sanctuary from the noise of the world and the turmoil within. Community became a vital part of my healing. I sought out others who, like me, walked the delicate intersection of identity and faith. We shared stories, struggles, and triumphs, finding solace in our shared humanity and the grace that bound us. Together, we challenged narratives of exclusion and crafted spaces where authenticity and spirituality coexisted. The crown I bore was a symbol of that shared journey, a reminder that each of us carries wounds, but also the capacity for compassion and renewal. It taught me that healing is not linear, but layered, requiring patience, forgiveness, and the courage to keep moving forward. I also began to witness healing in others, people who had been broken by rejection, fear, or self-doubt, finding new life through grace and love. These moments fueled my hope and strengthened my resolve to live as a beacon of that transformative compassion. Though the world still grappled with divisions and misunderstandings, I learned to hold space for complexity, to love fiercely, and to trust that healing is possible even in the most fractured places. Hope I discovered, is a revolutionary actone that demands vulnerability, faith, and unwavering love. As I stand now at this threshold, looking back on the extraordinary journey from life to death and back again, I see how every moment was woven by a love greater than I could have imagined. The question, "Why are you wearing that?" was not merely about the clothes or labels I bore in life. It was a profound invitation to examine the essence of my being beyond identity, beyond struggle, beyond pain. The divine presence continues to extend an eternal invitation to every soul, to lay down the burdens of judgment, fear, and pretense, to embrace the garment of grace, compassion, and authentic love. This invitation transcends all boundaries and calls us to the deepest truth that we are beloved, crowned not by the fleeting standards of the world, but by an everlasting love that defines our true identity. In this moment of reflection, I understand that the crown I saw is not a distant prize reserved for the few, but a present reality available to all who choose to walk the path of healing and love. It is a call to live courageously, vulnerably, and authentically, bearing witness to the transformative power of grace in a world hungry for hope. My story is but one thread in a vast tapestry of souls seeking belonging and wholeness. To anyone who hears this message, I offer this truth. You are seen, you are loved beyond measure, and you are invited to receive the crown of compassion that heals and restores. The clothes we wear in this life, whether garments of identity, armor of pride, or chains of shame, are temporary. But the soul's true garment is woven from the fabric of divine love, stitched with threads of forgiveness, mercy, and peace. As I continue to live out this calling, I carry the crown not as a symbol of achievement, but as a sacred reminder of the journey, one that leads from death into life, from separation into unity, and from fear into boundless love. This is my testimony, my hope, and my invitation to you. Look beyond what you wear and discover the eternal truth of who you are, a beloved child, crowned in grace, and forever held in the heart of the divine.